Ladies and gents, hello and welcome to ROG Pulse, the show where we dive into everything behind the scenes here at ROG. My name is still Jake Kalinsky, but if it's your first time tuning in, Whitson and I here, we like to dive in and show off the latest and greatest in the technologies we make. And today, we're focusing here on reflex latency and ULMB2, basically all the Nvidia technologies that make your displays even better.
Yeah, we've got some pretty sweet new tech in some of our latest displays. Thanks to NVIDIA, so there's like 3 different features that we're going to go through today. So it's going to be a little bit longer of a show, but bear with us because we're going to show you how to use all of it. So let's start by Jake. I just realized, can you move the thing behind you? Not supposed to see that yet. Nothing to see here. Move along.
Anyways,
Okay.
CES is soon, and
wow.
yay.
So, NVIDIA Reflex. NVIDIA Reflex is a collection of technologies, both on the GPU side and on the display side, that aims to reduce your latency in games. Latency being the amount of time between when you move the mouse or click the mouse and you see the corresponding action on screen. Okay, so this is obviously valuable for really competitive games like Valorant, Apex Legends, Call of Duty, whatever, but it's valuable in any game. No one's ever said, I want more latency in my games, right?
I hope not.
This works for just about anything. And I want to show a clip of an NVIDIA video because they have some good kind of visual aids that kind of explain how this works. It's a little technical, but it's really cool. So I want to explain it before we... So when you play a game, the CPU does its like calculations for each frame, and then it sends that information to a render queue where it waits for the GPU to draw the actual frame on your screen. Now, if your GPU is maxed out, so you're not CPU bound, then the CPU is sending more frames to that render queue than the GPU can output, creating a bottleneck. Those frames are waiting in line to be rendered, which we experience as input delay in each frame. The higher your refresh rate, the lower that latency is, but it's still there. Reflex, as you saw in that clip there, minimizes that render queue. It's basically acting as kind of a dynamic frame limiter that keeps the GPU and CPU in sync at all times. So when a frame is calculated by the CPU, it's sent right to the GPU, which it draws and it shows up on screen as fast as possible. So this can actually reduce latency quite a bit, sometimes by like half, like literally cutting your latency in half, which is really crucial in any game where you actually care about your reaction time.
Right.
Very cool tech, and it's something that NVIDIA works with developers to build into the game itself. So this is actually a setting in your games. All you need to do is go into the settings. If you find the NVIDIA Reflex setting, turn it on, and you're good to go. Depending on how everything is configured, it might be a small latency drop, it might be a big latency drop, depending on how you already have your system configured. So that's part 1 of NVIDIA Reflex. Just make sure if your game supports it that you turn that feature on in the settings. Is my audio cutting out?
No.
Okay, cool, because my picture's choppy, so you'll just get low frame rate Whitson today. Sorry, guys. Now, there's also a hardware side of NVIDIA Reflex. NVIDIA created another tool called the Reflex Latency Analyzer that lives under this Reflex umbrella because some components of latency are not just specific to the game. It's not just a setting you can tweak in a game. It's related to your mouse and your display and these other things. So there's a special tool available on certain high refresh ROG monitors that helps you measure your latency, the total mouse to screen latency that you see. And when you're able to measure that, you can fiddle with different settings and try to get it lower. So a number of our mice, for example, are also reflex verified to use with the system. Today, Jake, you are using the ROG Swift PG27 AQM. Is that correct?
Yep, that is correct.
And that is a 360 hertz monitor.
1440p 360. Like it's glorious.
Yes, super fast, incredibly smooth motion. Perfect for something like this. All right, so we're in Overwatch here. To set this up, you first have to plug your mouse into the monitor.
Yeah.
Because the monitor has,
Yeah, I mean, just kind of basically, we've got the USB-C cable coming out of the monitor, and then the actual monitor has the USB A to B cable running out of the display into the PC. So the mouse goes to the display first, then to the PC.
That's very important. A lot of people don't hook up that USB-B cable that comes with their monitor. You got to have that for this to work. You could, if you have a wireless mouse, you could also put the wireless dongle, plug the wireless dongle into the monitor. That works too.
I opted for the
But it
hardwire
has
for
to be
this.
plugged. Yeah, it has to be plugged into the monitor because the monitor is what contains the analyzer to do this. So that's step one.
And it's actually good to point out that when you actually go into the settings on your display, it's kind of hard to read here, but it says mouse detected. That's gonna confirm
handy.
whether or not your mouse is actually working properly, and it's right there at the top of the panel for your display.
There you go. Okay. Once you're plugged in, you can then open up GeForce Experience and turn on the performance view to turn on latency metrics. And Jake, you can see that. Here we go. Yeah. So we've cropped out a specific section of this. It's going to look a little bit
Well,
weird,
this
but
is
we
just the
wanted to
HUD.
make
I
it
just wanted to
readable.
show anybody how to do it. You can kind of customize the HUD here in your HUD layout, and you can choose what you want to see. So we chose performance, and I've chose Reflex Analyzer. You can have just FPS, latency, whatever you want, but this is going to give you the most information. But then that's Alt-Z, and then that's a default hotkey, and then Alt-R gives you the actual performance overlay, which is what we see here on the right.
And you've got a ton of stuff there. So you've got your FPS, which is high, perfect for that 360 hertz monitor.
Oh yeah, Overwatch runs great on this.
And then this is so cool. It gives you latency for every link in the chain. Render latency, the PC latency, the mouse latency. Like, it's got everything there. Except you'll find system. Well, hold on. If you stop shooting for a sec, Jake, you'll see that system latency was saying NA. It was saying not available. So
14.
one of the last components of this is that you can turn on this. I don't remember what they call it. It's a little square that you can move around your screen. Put it in front of the muzzle of your gun. I don't know if you can show this on the monitor.
So if we go into the Reflex Latency Analyzer on the actual display, and we want to turn on the monitoring rectangle, let's see if I just toggle it on and off, because I had been messing with this earlier. It should appear once I go in game.
It might just not be viewable because it's giving you the information.
Yeah, that might be it.
So you would move that box toward your gun there, so that when you shoot, that muzzle flash appears inside the box, and then you're able to click the mouse to shoot, and it will show you the entire mouse to pixel latency, because that box is basically measuring when that muzzle flash appears on screen.
There we go.
It can give you the total. Yeah, there you go. So see how it's measuring that when those pixels change, and then you get your total system latency from mouse to your eyes, basically, is what it's measuring. That's really cool, and
that's
not
crazy.
Something you can do with a normal monitor. You can still measure certain aspects of the latency without that box on. But if you want to measure the entire mouse button to your eye latency, you have to have a monitor that has this built in. So
very useful feature for FPS.
Right, and then of course from there you could tinker with your settings to see what you could do to lower that latency, right? You could see if changing from wireless to wired on your mouse affects latency to a noticeable degree. You could turn on the Nvidia Reflex feature in your game settings to see how that affects your latency. You can adjust other certain features on your monitor to find so you have the absolute lowest input lag, and you're getting that extremely fast reaction time. Sorry, I'm checking out chat here. Guys, usually we'll answer questions toward the end. We do read chat, yes. So if you have questions, you can pop them in chat, and we will address them. What if my mouse is plugged into my keyboard? If your mouse is plugged into your keyboard and then you plug the keyboard into your monitor, yes, that should work, Risto. Because it's still capturing the button click.
I wonder if that's going to have more latency, though. Like, even if we're talking like a millisecond or two, but I would imagine it's one more piece in the chain. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't think it would have a ton. But
wow,
again, that's going to vary depending on like if you have a cheap keyboard that has a really low quality hub, like maybe. Again, it's all worth testing. These give you the tools to actually test that and find out, and not just say, well, theoretically, plug it in, find out. That's the best way to know.
That's true. That's why it's there.
Yep.
I haven't tested it, so I can't tell you.
Yeah. Someone asked, can monitor settings and firmware be handled by Armory Crate? So I don't know about updates. I don't have like a specific answer to that question. There are, you can get some monitor features through a separate tool that we offer for download. It's not part of Armory Crate, but there's a separate display widget tool that for certain monitors lets you adjust their settings from your computer. That's a pretty handy tool to have. All right. So that's the latency analyzer in NVIDIA Reflex. There is another feature on our latest competitive monitors, like this 360 hertz display, that also comes from NVIDIA, that is very helpful in these situations. It's not for latency, but it's designed to minimize ghosting and motion blur, so you get a clear image. My phone is dinging during stream. Wow, how incredibly rude of me. It's called ultra low motion blur, or what NVIDIA calls G-Sync ULMB2. So we have a video showing this too, because this is something that you kind of need to see in slow motion to understand how it works. So if we could pull that up. NVIDIA frame generation is also awesome, but it's not specific to monitors. Right now we're talking about tech that is monitor specific. Frame generation works on any 40 series card with any games that support it. So that's kind of a separate suite of technologies. It is awesome though.
I'm actually trying to remember how we get to this one.
Sorry, this one's on the monitor OSD. Oh no, but I'm. Let's pull up the YouTube video first.
Right. Okay. A lot of moving parts in this show stream. So
I know we've got a lot of things to look off. This is a complex one, guys.
I got so distracted by the shooting range in Overwatch. It feels so good at 360 hertz. It's like actually just dreamy.
It really is. And this was actually, I used this shooting range when I first did my test to see whether I could tell the difference between 240 and 360 hertz. I was doing it in Overwatch in the shooting range. When I was blindfolded, well, not blindfolded for the gaming, but when my wife switched the refresh rate for me, and then I took the blindfold off and I could see if I could tell the difference. This was when I was reviewing our first 360 hertz monitor.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And I could tell. I was shocked. I didn't think I'd be able to tell the difference between 240 and 360. A lot of people are like, "Oh, it's so smooth, you'll never tell the difference." I did a blind test and I picked the 360 hertz one right every time except one out of 11 trials.
That's actually
it's subtle, but it does make a difference over 240 hertz. If you want the absolute lowest latency, smoothest motion possible, this is it. Actually, now we have a 480 hertz monitor too, so this is not the ultimate smoothest, but it is really good.
Okay.
So, is this ULMB2 or is this late? This might be the wrong video. This is the wrong video.
Oh,
other video.
So many links. Apologies.
All good. So, accidentally maximize my thing. So the way that this works on many monitors, especially those with lower refresh rates,
sure
a moving object on the screen can often create ghosting or a kind of a blurry trail behind moving objects, and this makes it harder to track your enemies clearly when they're jumping around the screen. High refresh rates like 360 hertz, 480 hertz, whatever, do reduce this a lot, but ULMB reduces this even further with a technique called backlight strobing. So the backlight will flicker on and off to kind of take advantage of the way that your eyes track movement across the screen, so you can see when this thing moves. It's not showing you smooth movement. It's one frame that pulses there for a second, and then another frame that holds there for a second. And your eyes actually create this blur in between those. It's trying to fill in the missing spaces. But that image is still on screen, so it doesn't do a very good job of it. When you pulse the backlight on and off, like what you're seeing on the right here, your eyes kind of get a break, so to speak, and they're able to fill in that information between frames more effectively. It's really weird, but this is actual science. And it allows you to see much, much clearer motion without that ghosting. Now, the original version of ULMB, it came out a while ago, and it was excellent for fast-paced games, but it did have some challenges. So, for example, when you're pulsing the backlight like that, it can darken the image somewhat since the backlight is actually off, something like 75% of the time. Sometimes you'll also notice a phenomenon called crosstalk, where you could see in that animation it was showing when it draws the image, it draws it from top to bottom, your monitor. when images near the top or the bottom of the screen, sometimes they'll look doubled when the backlight is strobing because the strobing isn't perfectly in sync with the top and bottom of the screen the way it is with the middle of the screen, because there are milliseconds in between that. So due to the way that previous versions of ULMB worked, you couldn't always use it at the maximum refresh rate of your monitor either. ULMB 2 fixes all of this. It is significantly brighter, so you're able to see the screen more clearly, don't have to jack up the brightness. It has virtually no crosstalk, so you don't get that image doubling, and it works at the monitor's maximum refresh rate. And in fact, this is going to sound crazy, but if you're using a 360 hertz monitor and you turn on ULMB2, you're getting motion that is so much clearer, it is equivalent to the clarity of playing the game at 1,440 hertz without ULMB.
What?
I know that sounds like fake numbers, but it's actual, like that is actual science, not marketing lingo, because it's literally, I mean, because it's flickering at a rate that's basically 4 times, I think it's like 4 times the monitor's refresh rate, right? And so you would have to play a game at 1,440 hertz in order to get that same motion clarity without the backlight flicker. You're not seeing that many frames, but you're seeing motion clarity equivalent to what you would see at that many frames. Very cool. Now, Jake, show us how it works.
I know. I'm trying to find where it is.
So this is in the monitor's OSD. You may need to update your monitor's firmware depending on the display that you have.
Yeah.
And you have to turn off G-Sync in the NVIDIA control.
I did that as well.
Okay. So then, I mean, you almost don't even have to show this because it's so easy.
Yeah.
You just go into your monitor's OSD and you turn on ULMB2. That is it.
There's so many settings. It's got to be here. I did this last week.
So, and once you turn it on, you should notice that the motion looks different, that it looks super clear. And on our latest monitors, like if you want to see it, I love looking up the Blurbusters UFO ghosting test to like really see it in action. It's crazy. You will see the difference instantly when you turn it on and off. So that is how ULMB2 works. If you're playing competitive games, you want reflex on, you want to use the reflex latency analyzer to minimize that input lag as much as possible, and you want to turn on ULMB2. We can't actually show ULMB2 in game capture because it's not in the game, it's not in the software, it's the monitor.
Hardware. Yeah.
And the camera wouldn't even necessarily show it properly. I haven't actually seen a camera try to show it. It might look really flickery on a camera because sometimes camera sees things that your eyes don't.
Right.
But it's going to look much better to your eyes. So it's okay that we're not showing this at this exact moment. It's something you have to see to really understand. But it is amazing. The clarity you get from 360 hertz with ULMB2 on is unparalleled.
You know, it's just a kind of a tangent, but one of my favorite parts about going to trade shows, conventions, PAX, anything like that is actually using a display, because that's not something you can ever experience through video, right? You can see performance and stuff through video of a game to an extent, but you can't see how good it actually feels like you can when you use a display in person.
It's just not the same. It's obviously nice to see that little 360 FPS counter in the corner of the screen, but until you truly see how crazy smooth it is, I was shocked at how much I loved it, and every monitor since has been like, oh, it's 200 hertz is nice, but it's not 360.
Yeah, so spoiled with 360 now.
For real. And so if you guys want to see this tech put to use, Jake is streaming games with this monitor over on our Twitch channel regularly.
Yep.
So go check that out. Also a reminder that this show, ROG Pulse, streams live on Twitch and YouTube every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. We dive into new ROG products every week, but we clip part of the show for the YouTube channel. So if you're not watching live right now, if you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, there's a whole part of this show you didn't even see where we dive into all kinds of other stuff and do giveaways over on our Twitch channel. So subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitch. Come watch us live. There's all kinds of other cool stuff going on.
Now, it's good to point out that those giveaways are only on YouTube, on Twitch.
Only on Twitch. So come follow us on our Twitch channel for sure. And yeah, we'll see you guys there. Thanks for joining us.